I was completely stunned when I saw Emma standing among the prostitutes, her eyes meeting mine, and for a moment, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I could never have imagined it. Never in a million years would I have thought that my wife, the woman I had married, the woman I loved with every fiber of my being, could ever be involved in something like that. But here I am, sitting alone in a quiet room, looking back at everything. The love, the trust, the years we spent together, it all seems like a lie now. How did I not see it coming? Emma and I met in college. I still remember the first time I saw her. She was sitting across from me in the library, laughing with a group of friends. There was something about her, something magnetic that drew me in. I was the quiet type, content to sit in the back of the room, focused on my studies. But she was the type of woman who could light up a whole room without even trying. Everyone knew her name, everyone wanted to be around her. I never thought someone like her would even notice someone like me. I was shy, reserved, and just a little bit awkward. But Emma was different. She didn't care about status, popularity, or appearances. When we started talking, it was like we had known each other for years. We clicked. It wasn't love at first sight, not exactly. But it was something. Something real. We spent hours together, talking about everything and nothing. We would grab coffee in the student lounge, study late into the night, and share silly jokes that only we seemed to understand. And before I knew it, I was falling for her, hard. It scared me at first. I had never felt like this before, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. But Emma made it easy. She was kind, thoughtful, and funny. She had this way of making me feel special, like I mattered. It wasn't just the way she looked at me, it was the way she saw me. After a couple of months, I finally worked up the courage to ask her out. I still remember that night. I took her to a small diner by the lake, the kind of place where no one really paid attention to you. It felt perfect. The stars were out, and everything seemed to fall into place. She smiled, and my heart just about stopped. I knew then that I was never going to be the same. We dated for 2 years, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but we worked through the ups and downs together. The late-night study sessions, the family gatherings, the small moments that meant everything. It wasn't about the big gestures. It was about the day-to-day, the little things we did for each other. It was about trust. I proposed after 2 years of being together. It wasn't a grand proposal. I wasn't that kind of guy. But it was honest. We had gone on a weekend trip to the mountains, just the two of us. I had a ring with me, but I wasn't planning anything fancy. I just wanted to be with her. As we sat on the porch of the cabin, looking at the stars, I told her how much she meant to me, how I couldn't imagine my life without her. She said yes almost immediately, and I felt like I was on top of the world. The wedding came a year later. We kept it small, just close family and friends. I didn't care about the fancy details. All that mattered was that she was mine, and I was hers. I had never been more sure of anything in my life. Emma was everything I had ever wanted. And I thought she felt the same. Our marriage wasn't perfect. We were both working hard, establishing our careers, figuring out how to balance everything. But it was good. Better than good. It was comfortable. We didn't rush into starting a family. Emma had always said she wanted to focus on her career for a while, and I was fine with that. We had time. We had each other. Life was good. We had a beautiful apartment in the city, and I had a steady job at a tech firm. Emma had her own work life, full of PR events, meetings, and the occasional late night. I knew she was busy, but I never questioned her. She loved her job. I loved mine. We had our weekends together, quiet nights at home with takeout and movies, and spontaneous trips to places we'd never been. We were building something. I was building something. And I couldn't imagine ever being with anyone else. But looking back, I can't help but wonder if I was just too naive. Too comfortable. I trusted her. I didn't question her, not even for a second. I never suspected anything. I had no reason to. She was the woman I had chosen to marry, the woman I had promised to love forever. I never thought for a moment that she could be hiding something, living a life I knew nothing about. She never gave me any reason to doubt her. Not once. But now, after everything that happened, I can't help but ask myself, how did I miss it? How did I miss the signs, the little things she did, the way she started pulling away? Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe I was so caught up in our life, in the comfort we had built, that I couldn't, or didn't, want to face the reality that she wasn't the person I thought she was. She was my wife, my partner. And I thought I knew her better than anyone. I thought I had everything figured out. But I was wrong. It was supposed to be just another corporate event, a mixer to unwind after a long week. A few drinks, some business talk, maybe some jokes and laughs with colleagues. But that night, something changed. I didn't know it at the time, but it would be the night everything in my life came crashing down. Emma wasn't planning to attend. In fact, she hadn't even been invited. The party was strictly for my coworkers, a company event to celebrate the end of a quarter, and I never expected her to come. She had told me she wasn't interested in it, so I thought nothing of it. She wasn't in the mood to mingle with a bunch of corporate people she didn't know, and I didn't blame her. Honestly, I was relieved. It would be easier to relax without worrying about her being bored or uncomfortable. I had spent the evening talking with clients and colleagues, trying to navigate through small talk and meaningless chatter. Kevin, a colleague of mine who always had a knack for pushing boundaries, was his usual self. He had a few drinks in him and kept suggesting we liven up the party. I ignored him, figuring it was just his typical nonsense. But then something shifted around midnight. Kevin started to act strange. He was making more phone calls than usual, stepping outside for long stretches of time. I didn't think much of it at first. It wasn't uncommon for him to try to set up some off-the-wall plan or get a group together for an after-party. But as the minutes dragged on, I started to feel uneasy. Kevin had a way of getting people riled up, but this felt different. I went to the bar to grab another drink, hoping the alcohol would calm my nerves, but just as I turned around, Kevin came up to me with a wide grin. His face was flushed, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't place. "Hey, Daniel," he said in a low voice. "I think we should make this night a little more interesting. I've got some entertainment lined up. You won't regret it." I raised an eyebrow. What the hell was he talking about? What kind of entertainment? Kevin leaned in closer, clearly excited. "You'll see. Trust me, it's going to spice things up a bit." He gave me a quick, mischievous look and then darted off. At that moment, I thought it was just Kevin being Kevin. But the unease in my gut kept growing. I wasn't sure what he meant, but the last thing I needed was a drunken spectacle at my company's event. I tried to focus on the conversation I was having with a client, pushing the strange feeling aside. Then, just as I thought I could ignore it, Kevin's voice echoed through the room. "Hey everyone! Get ready for the real fun to begin!" Before I knew it, a few women entered the venue, clearly out of place. They weren't the kind of people you'd expect at a corporate party, at least not in the way I was used to seeing. The women were dressed provocatively, their makeup heavy, their outfits tight and revealing. I froze, my blood running cold as I realized what was happening. They weren't hired for some mild fun or party games. Kevin had brought in prostitutes. I glanced around, not sure if anyone else was seeing what I was seeing. Most of the people in the room had already started mingling with them, making crude jokes and flirting. But I stood there, paralyzed, my mind racing. This wasn't what I signed up for. This wasn't the corporate party I had agreed to. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. One of the women stepped into the room, her eyes scanning the crowd. She looked familiar. Too familiar. It was Emma. I couldn't believe my eyes. She was standing there, not dressed in the casual, comfortable clothes I was used to seeing her in, but in tight leather pants and a revealing crop top. Her makeup was heavy, almost to the point where she looked like someone else entirely. She didn't even look like the woman I had married. I stood frozen, my body going numb as she walked into the room like she belonged there, completely out of place at a company event. But what hit me hardest wasn't her appearance. It was the coldness in her eyes as she looked around the room. No warmth, no familiarity. Nothing that I recognized. My heart started pounding. I couldn't breathe. This was a nightmare. Emma had lied to me for months. She had been part of this world, the world I never knew existed. She had been living a double life. And there she was. My wife. One of the women Kevin had brought to liven up the party. I felt someone tap my shoulder. Kevin. He was watching me with an expectant smile. You didn't expect her, did you? He asked, grinning like he had pulled off the ultimate prank. I could barely find my voice, my mouth dry as dust. What the hell is going on? I managed to choke out. Kevin laughed, clapping me on the back. Don't act so surprised, man. Emma's been with us for a while now. She's good at what she does, right? His words were like a slap in the face, cold and harsh. It took every ounce of my willpower to keep standing. Emma's gaze flicked over to me, and for the first time, she spoke. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Daniel. She said in a voice that wasn't even her own. It was cold and flat, like she wasn't talking to me at all, like she was talking to a stranger. But this is who I am now. This is what I do. I wanted to scream, to grab her and demand answers. But all I could do was stand there, stunned, as Kevin and the others laughed. My whole world felt like it was disintegrating around me. I had spent years building a life with Emma, trusting her, loving her, and now, here she was, standing in front of me, a prostitute. Kevin laughed again, this time more loudly. Come on, Daniel, don't act so high and mighty. Why don't you just watch? It's what she does best. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. But Emma, without even flinching, walked toward one of the men who had been eyeing her. There was no hesitation in her step. No shame, no remorse. She dropped to her knees in front of him, right there, in front of everyone. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She had no shame. No hesitation. She was doing it. Right there, in front of me, in front of everyone at the party. She unzipped his pants. The man's eyes glazed over with excitement as she began to give him oral sex without a single sign of discomfort or hesitation. My stomach churned. The room spun. I couldn't tear my eyes away, though every part of me wanted to run, to get as far away from this as possible. But I couldn't move. It felt like I was glued to the floor, trapped in this nightmare. I wanted to scream, to run. But all I could do was stand there, paralyzed, my entire world coming down around me. Emma, the woman I had married, had become something I didn't recognize, something I could never have imagined. The others in the room laughed, cheered, like this was all just some game. Kevin, standing beside me, gave me a slap on the back. She's good, huh? She's been doing this for a while now. You didn't even know, did you? I turned and fled, my head spinning, my body shaking. I couldn't take it anymore. My wife, the woman I thought I knew, had betrayed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. I was trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape the reality of what she had become. As I stumbled into the cold night air, I heard her voice, sharp and shrill, echoing behind me. You never could handle the truth, Daniel. You're so pathetic. Emma shouted, but I didn't look back. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who she was anymore. My mind was numb, my heart shattered. I thought I knew her, thought I had a life with her. But now, it all felt like a lie. I couldn't breathe. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like it wanted to escape my body. I felt like I was choking, but it was more than just the air in my lungs. It was the weight of the betrayal I had just witnessed. I couldn't get the image of Emma out of my head, her kneeling in front of that man, her cold, emotionless face, her total lack of shame. I had no idea how long I stood there in the parking lot, just trying to catch my breath. But when I finally looked up, the reality of what had happened hit me like a freight train. I couldn't go home. I couldn't face her. I didn't know who she was anymore. The woman I had married, the woman I had trusted, was gone. She was never the person I thought she was. How had I been so blind? How had I missed the signs? I drove aimlessly through the streets, my mind racing. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I couldn't bring myself to look at it. It was Emma. I knew it was. And I couldn't handle hearing her voice. I ended up at my father's house, not even sure why I went there. Maybe I thought he would know what to do, maybe I thought I could find some comfort in his old, familiar presence. I had no idea how to deal with what was happening. My world had just shattered, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. When I walked through the front door, my father was sitting in his usual chair, reading the newspaper. He didn't look up at first, but then he heard my footsteps and glanced over. "Daniel? What are you doing here so late?" he asked, his voice calm and steady, as always. I couldn't speak. I didn't know how to. Everything inside me was on fire. My father noticed my expression, the way I was trembling. His brow furrowed with concern. "Son, what's wrong?" he asked again, setting the paper down. I collapsed into the chair across from him, my head in my hands. "Dad, I don't know what to do," I choked out, my voice cracking. Everything's falling apart." My father leaned forward, his eyes narrowing with concern. "What happened, Daniel?" I couldn't hold it in anymore. The words rushed out of me in a flood, a mixture of anger, hurt, confusion, and disbelief. I told him everything, the party, the women, the revelation about Emma. How she had been lying to me, how she had been living this double life, how I had caught her in the act in front of everyone. I didn't hold anything back. The rage and hurt poured out of me like a dam had broken, and I couldn't stop it. When I finished, my father sat back in his chair, his face unreadable. He didn't speak for a long time, just stared at me. Finally, he spoke in a calm, almost distant tone. "I never trusted that woman," he said quietly. "You were too young when you met her. I told you she wasn't who you thought she was." I didn't know how to respond. I had spent so many years ignoring my father's concerns, convinced that Emma was the one for me. And now, it felt like everything he had warned me about had come true. "I can't believe this," I muttered, running my hands through my hair. I don't know how I didn't see it. How could I have been so blind?" My father sighed. "People show you who they are, Daniel. You just have to be willing to see it." I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear my father's words, even though they were true. I didn't want to face the fact that I had been living a lie for so long. I had been a fool. A damn fool. Just as I was about to speak again, my phone buzzed once more. This time, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed it, seeing Emma's name on the screen. I didn't know what she wanted to say, but I didn't want to hear it. I wanted her to leave me alone. I let the phone ring out. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before throwing it across the room. It hit the wall with a loud crack, but I didn't care. My whole world felt like it had cracked open, and nothing mattered anymore. My father didn't say anything about the phone. He didn't need to. He knew what was happening. After a few moments of silence, I stood up. I couldn't sit still. I had to do something. "I can't go back to her," I said, more to myself than to him. "I can't even look at her. How do I even begin to fix this?" "You don't fix it," my father replied simply. "You let go of the pieces that are broken." I didn't want to hear it, but it was the truth. Deep down, I knew there was no going back. Emma had chosen this life. She had made her choices, and now I had to make mine. I walked to the door, my mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. My father called after me. "Daniel, don't make any decisions tonight. Take some time. Get some rest." But I didn't listen. I wasn't going back to Emma. I couldn't. I didn't even know who she was anymore. She had shattered the trust between us, and there was no way to rebuild it. I wasn't going back to that life. I walked out of my father's house and back into the cold, empty night. The days following that night felt like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The anger, the betrayal, the disbelief, they all weighed heavily on me, pulling me under. Every time I thought about what had happened, my stomach churned, and I felt like I was suffocating. I didn't go back home for a few days. I stayed with my father, trying to avoid Emma's calls, her texts, the constant reminders of everything she had done. I couldn't bring myself to face her. I didn't know what I would say to her, or how I could even look at her after what I had witnessed. How could I go back to the woman who had so casually betrayed me, who had been living a double life behind my back? But Emma wasn't letting go that easily. Her messages became more frantic, more pleading. She begged for a chance to talk, to explain herself. I ignored them all, my anger too raw, my heart too broken to even consider listening to her lies. Then, a few days later, I finally made the decision. I couldn't keep running. I had to face her. I had to hear her side, no matter how much I didn't want to. Maybe I needed closure, or maybe I just needed to hear the truth from her own lips. I called her. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was softer than I expected, almost desperate. "Daniel, please," she said, her voice shaking. "We need to talk. Please, just let me explain." I could barely hear her through the rage in my chest. "Explain? What could you possibly explain, Emma?" My voice was rough, thick with emotion. "You sold yourself for money. You were there, in front of everyone, doing things I can't even comprehend. What's left to explain?" There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear her breathing, as if she was trying to steady herself. "I never wanted you to find out this way," she finally said. "I never wanted you to see me like that. But you don't understand, Daniel. I didn't do it because I wanted to hurt you. I did it because I had to. Because you wouldn't listen to me." "What are you talking about?" I demanded, the confusion only growing. "You had to? You chose to do this, Emma. You made that decision, and you kept it from me. You lied to me for months, for years, and now you're sitting here trying to tell me that you had to?" "Daniel, I'm not trying to make excuses," she said, her voice low and pleading. "But you don't understand the pressure I was under. The money we needed, the bills piling up. I didn't know how else to fix it. I felt trapped. And when Kevin offered me a way out, I took it. I thought it would be temporary. I thought I could stop before it went too far." I laughed bitterly, though there was no humor in it. "Temporary? You think what you were doing was temporary? You were fucking other men for money, Emma. And you're telling me it was temporary? I'm sorry." Her voice cracked, and I heard the tears in her words. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to lose you. I just thought if I could fix everything, if I could pay off the debt, maybe I could stop. But it spiraled out of control. It became something I couldn't stop." Her words were all excuses. Every sentence was another attempt to justify the unthinkable. And still, I wasn't sure if I could believe her. The woman I had loved for so long was no longer the person I thought I knew. She was a stranger, someone I couldn't trust. Someone I couldn't respect. "You're unbelievable," I said, my voice growing cold. "You've been lying to me this whole time, and now you're trying to make me feel sorry for you? I can't even recognize you anymore, Emma. I don't know who you are. Please, Daniel," she begged, her voice now full of desperation. "I love you. I never wanted any of this. I don't know how to make things right." "You can't make things right," I replied, my voice firm, final. You've already ruined everything. You've shattered this marriage. I don't know how to come back from this. There was silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, her sobs barely audible through the phone. I'll leave. I'll move out. I'll do whatever you need, she said, her voice small and broken. But please don't leave me. I swear I'll do anything to fix this. Just please don't leave me. I closed my eyes, my chest tightening. I didn't want to hear her. I didn't want to feel the guilt that was creeping in. But I had to be strong. I had to make the decision, no matter how much it hurt. I don't know if I can forgive you, Emma, I said quietly. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. With that, I hung up. I sat in silence for a long time after that. My thoughts swirled around in my mind, a whirlwind of anger, pain, and confusion. Could I really walk away from everything we had built together? Could I leave the woman I had loved for so long? But deep down, I knew the answer. I couldn't live in a lie anymore. I couldn't stay with someone who had betrayed me in the worst way possible. The trust between us was gone, shattered beyond repair. And no matter how much I still loved her, I couldn't ignore what she had done. The days after our conversation felt like a blur. I couldn't escape the images in my mind, the sound of her voice begging me to stay, the tears I knew she was shedding. But I couldn't give in. I couldn't allow myself to be swayed by her manipulations, by her promises to change. I had heard it all before, and I wasn't buying it anymore. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to figure out what to do. I had already made up my mind. I was filing for divorce. There was no going back from this. What she had done was unforgivable, and I couldn't continue living in a relationship built on lies and deceit. But even though I knew what needed to be done, it didn't make the decision any easier. The pain still gnawed at me, and the guilt still lingered in the pit of my stomach. Emma moved out that weekend. I wasn't there when she packed her things, didn't want to be. I couldn't bear to watch her leave, not when everything felt so broken. But when I came home that evening, the house felt empty. The silence was deafening, and the absence of her presence, the woman I had once loved so deeply, hit me harder than I expected. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to stay in this house that had once felt like home. Every corner, every room, held memories of a life I could never return to. A life that had been stolen from me. The next few weeks were a blur of legal papers, meetings with lawyers, and the crushing reality of starting over. My friends, my family, they all tried to offer their support, but it didn't help. Nothing could fix what had been broken. I had trusted her, I had loved her, and she had destroyed everything. The person I had been was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Emma kept calling, texting, begging for another chance. She said she was going to therapy, that she was getting help. She promised me that she had learned her lesson, that she was sorry for everything. But I didn't want to hear it. I couldn't hear it. I had already heard all her excuses, all her empty promises, and none of it mattered anymore. I couldn't look at her the same way. I couldn't be with someone who had betrayed me so completely. One day, I received a letter from her. It was the final piece of the puzzle, the last attempt to salvage what little was left of our relationship. She had written it all down, her thoughts, her regrets, her apologies. And at the end, there was a single sentence that hit me harder than anything else. I'm sorry for ruining everything, Daniel. But you will always be the love of my life. I didn't know how to feel after reading that. A part of me wanted to feel sorry for her, to believe that she truly meant it. But another part of me, the part that had learned the hard way, knew that words were just words. They didn't change the actions that had already been taken. They didn't undo the damage that had been done. I sent the letter back, unopened, with a simple note attached. I can't do this anymore. And with that, Emma was gone. It was over. The marriage, the life we had built together, the love we had shared, it was all over. Months passed, and life slowly began to move forward. I focused on work, on rebuilding my life from the ground up. The pain of the divorce didn't go away overnight, but with time, it became easier to breathe. The weight of the betrayal started to lift, piece by piece, and I began to remember who I was before Emma, before the lies, before the heartbreak. It wasn't easy. There were days when I still missed her. I missed the woman I had fallen in love with, the woman I had thought she was. But I couldn't let myself go back. I couldn't let myself be fooled again. One day, while I was out with friends, I ran into Emma. She was standing across the street, her eyes catching mine. She looked different, more put together, but there was a sadness in her gaze that I couldn't ignore. She approached slowly, hesitantly. "Daniel," she said softly, her voice trembling. I just wanted to see how you were. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope you're doing okay." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to tell her everything I had felt in those dark months since we split. But another part of me, the part that had been buried for so long, just wanted to feel peace. "I'm doing better," I said finally, my voice calm, controlled. "It's been hard, but I'm moving forward." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I really am." I could see it in her face, she meant it. But it didn't matter anymore. I had already made my peace with everything. I had already let go. "I know," I said. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Emma. I really do. But I'm done." And with that, I turned and walked away, not looking back. The past was behind me. It had to be. And I was finally free.